Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin, and I recently created a visualization called Stage to Screen Broadway Musicals Turned into Movies. It's a submission to next year's IronViz contest. So I'm eager to show you the creation process.
Let me see. Do you have the drafts or sketches, like iterations, previous that you can show? I think that would be interesting because your Viz is very heavy on the illustration. So it'll be nice to see how you finally arrive at the end product.
Um, let's see. A lot of this is already like when I got a data set, it took me about 2 weeks to gather all the data sets. After that, you have to analyze it first, right? Find a story and then find the design. So when I was at the phase where I was trying to find a design, I do a lot of paper sketch. Can you see that? And I know that in the long form, I have to tell the story in chapters. A lot of sketches don't always work. I didn't include everything that I drew, but it's just like for me to keep on testing it. So after the paper sketches, I did a lot of things on Figma. First of all, I knew that this would only work in dark mode. If it's light mode, it doesn't convey the moodiness, the atmosphere of Broadway. I can't remember whether I went to Behance or Dribble, but I typed Broadway illustration. And then I found a couple of images and I used Adobe Color to extract colors out of the photo. Eventually, I thought Chicago Theater would be perfect for me because it's within walking distance from my apartment. And it's just very beautiful. It's also where I met Idina Mendel's this year, which is the original Elphaba in The Wicked. So everything's aligned. I went to the Wikipedia of Chicago Theater, and this is what I found. I decided to recreate it using Figma. All of these are just lines and rectangles and circles. I basically lay that image at the back of my frame, and then I just start to outline everything accordingly. It's a one-to-one copy. And I also knew that I want to show all 22 movies. At first, I thought, oh, maybe I could show them like in a row of films. But then I realized that come on, it's very basic. Kevin, be better. Like, if it's like, okay, movies and films, it's such a classic thing, right? It's almost cheating, too easy. And I like to overcomplicate things. So I went online and looked for items representing theaters and movies. And I noticed that all movie theaters used to hand out tickets like this. This is actually one for West Side Story. And then you can see that's how you can see how I
Is
draw
that like metal?
that's a metal theater, maybe something premium. I don't know. I don't think
Metal.
this is gold. This looks like brass.
I've never seen a metal ticket like this.
Yeah, I've never seen it too. So it's going to be something really fancy. So nonetheless, I recreated that design here and I just place my viz in each of the section with the text. I basically put everything together with a string, literally. And then I roll the end credit like this. So that is the big picture of how I put everything together. I went through different iterations, as you can tell. I had the rectangles as a placeholder first, and then I removed the color in the latest versions of the image. And yeah.
You know what's
Oh,
funny?
mhm,
Your development process is very similar to mine. I also
mhm,
drew everything in Figma and I had everything laid out in Figma and I also had that rectangle thing that I built and
mhm.
just imported it back to
Placeholder.
Tableau to play with. So,
I thought that would be an excellent tactic for actual finalists, right? You don't have to memorize the locations of the frame. You just use it as you can start with a black and white, like chart one, chart two, chart three. Place it first, and then you swap into the real final image. Everybody's gonna be mind blown by it. So,
exactly.
yeah.
The illustrations is really well done. I know you're pretty proficient in Figma, but how long did it take you, like drawing the top portion, the ticket, and all the other different pieces?
So the top part took me one day. I was talking to Shazira in the morning because we were both trying to cheer each other up and bounce ideas. So I remember 30 minutes before we started our conversation, I started Figma to draw the line. I didn't even care about the color. I just started to draw lines to trace the Chicago theater image. And then within 30 minutes, I'll say 60% of everything's already there. After that, the rest of the night, I was just fine tuning things, trying to find the right color combinations, shades. So I'll say majority of the design, one full days of work and fine tuning And placing the charts takes forever. Yeah. I did tell everybody that month, no big dinner, no big party. That's what I'm going to do.
But having to do everything in a day is still very impressive. I realized we didn't talk about how you came about the idea in the first place, because entertainment is such a wide topic. How do you arrive at doing on Broadway?
I attempt several different topics before I landed in that topic. Before my Broadway, my last this was the Spotify data podcast. That was actually a test for me. I intentionally made that at that time of the year so that if I made it through, the same technique can be applied in a different sets of Spotify data. So that was definitely a pre-run for me. After that, I knew that I newly acquired a new skill set. Now I can deal with Spotify Python library. So I knew that it's going to have something to do with Spotify data. And I knew that I love movies. And out of all of this, I also needed to be relatable to the English audience. So we can't do, Kung Fu things, Chinese things, Hong Kong things. No one's going to pay attention to it. And I wanted to be niche enough that no one's going to have the same topic as me. So after all those considerations, eventually I landed in Broadway musicals. Because here's the thing, if I analyze all musical movies, that would be too many. So I need to narrow it down to Broadway, and then I further narrow it down to the last 20 years. I think a lot and find the intersects between many circles and reduce the scope a little bit. But yeah, that's how I came to the final product.
Earlier on, you were saying the data collection is probably not as taxing as like the other parts of the Viz, right? Like,
I would say deceptively so. First of all of this Broadway adaptation has at least two versions of the albums, right? The original albums and the latest iterations of the albums. So you need to make sure that you find the OG and the latest data from Broadway. I went to the equivalent of IMDb for Broadway. It's called IBDB, International Broadway Database. Went there, and to get the data, you have to hard code Excel. Thankfully, there's only 22 of them. So it's okay. I suffered through it. After that, I think it took me about a week to blend everything together. It's not difficult, but it's very laborious things to blend that three sets of data together.
Now I get it why you call it deceptively so simple. That's the thing about doing data visualization. Oftentimes you need a very specific way the data should look to appear as how we want it to be in the Viz, and it takes a lot of data manipulation.
People didn't realize how this 1 month progressed. 90% of the time you weren't creating the Viz. You were deciding what to keep, what not to keep. And then you spent maybe 1/3 of the time walking into the wrong direction, and then you walk yourself back. It's that part that's never shown on that 20 minutes of the contestant in the final competition. So
exactly. Yeah. Understandably so, because we don't have so much time for them to go through everything. I think this year's IronViz is very interesting because out of 191, you can easily spot a good 30 to 50 that are really good. So I don't know how they're going to judge this, honestly.
Well, thankfully, it's not my job or not your job. So we're just going to let them do the hard work.
So I think we have everything from Kevin today on his amazing Viz. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next one. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever you're celebrating.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you too. I was very tempted to do a Viz on Sun Wukong after I completed Black Myth. I've done a little bit of research, but I haven't found the angle of it. And we were chatting about this earlier on. And the problem with the game is that it requires you to have pre-existing knowledge of the lore and mythology of Journey to the West to make sense of some of the character interactions within the game. I love the interactions. I love how the story uncovers. But you do really need to know who Sun Wukong is, like his history with the Celestial Court, how he actually became who he is from the little stone monkey, how he wreaked havoc in the heavens. The closest thing I had in my mind with after playing the game and after listening to all of those internet explanations of the game, this is very close to Game of Thrones, with how complicated it is and how many different characters it has and how each had an impact on each other. But at least those are in English. It's not in English. How to explain all this with the terminologies without having to explain every single term. That's so difficult. You need to know it pretty well to know some of the details. Because it's meant to be a sequel anyways. They don't really explain a lot of things, and They assume that you know who these characters are, and they
Yeah.
just jump straight into the story.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to just play it as a game of killing monster, you may as well. But I feel like you don't get the essence if you only play it as a killing monster game. So it's okay. I enjoyed it. Second half of the game, I just started checking the references on the internet so that I can get done soon. Otherwise, I don't get why I have to get killed for more than 20 times to just to defeat the boss. But I finished the whole thing yesterday. I wish I could get that record. I mean, now every boss is going to be very easy for me to fight, but I
I
know.
tried searching in Mandarin, but
Uh-huh.
there wasn't any data. There was a very subjective list of the
Oh.
10 difficulties,
Difficult.
but that's very subjective. Like some bosses you might find difficult might be different from another. The best way is if we had kill counts or defeat counts of each of the bosses, but nobody wants to admit how many times they defeated to the boss.
Yeah, it's very hard piece of data set to get.
It is. It is. Oh, did you fight the secret boss?
Oh yeah. Funnily, I fought that first before I fought the last monkey. You're not supposed to do that, but I fought the monkey and then I got defeated. So I went online and I was like, okay, is it any other things I need to get to max out my power before I fight the
I
monkey?
thought you need
Right?
to defeat the last boss before you can actually fight Erlangsen.
So here's what I did. You know, the last monkey, the monkey zombie, there are 3 phases, right? I defeated 1 and 2, and then I lost to the 3rd. So I went online and say what else I can do to get more power. And then I somehow bump into the map to go back to find Erlangsen. So yeah. So by accident, I spoiled myself, but it's okay.
Erlangsen's fight was very interesting because he transformed into the demon, which I think the whole premise of the game kind of twists the mythology of gods and humans and demons.
But here's the thing, the original mythology, it has always been like that. No matter how the story is told, the essence has always been the criticisms of the existing power and bureaucratism. So yeah, that part I like. It's really dark after learning about the whole story. I love it. When I got the whole full armor and then with the Rui Jinggu Bang, right? I almost tear up. I was like, never ever in my life thought that I'm gonna hold that thing in my hand. That was so cool. That was really cool.
I think it's been a while since we have a AAA Chinese mythology game.
I've heard that you talked to my coworkers.
Actually, yes. I didn't know she was your coworker.
We're in the same team, like we sat next to each other.
And the funny thing is, I just messaged her the other day. And we actually took a photo together without knowing who we were.
At the conference?
Yes.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah, because I was there and then you were taking a photo with me and then my coworkers next to me was like, let's do it. And I was already pretty drunk at that moment. That's how friendship is.
Exactly.
Yeah.